our discussions in this meeting, that you can ask questions and share your own experience in your practice. In fact, our practice is not only something that you do diligently. You must practice continuously and diligently until you reach the Buddha nature. Don't just say or understand or talk about the practice, but you must start your practice right now and continue to practice until you reach the Buddha nature. Don't stop. Continue to practice. That is all the meanings, the ultimate meanings from our Buddha and Patriarch. All Buddhas, previous Buddhas, all the Patriarchs, all the practitioners, the previous practitioners, that always pay attention to the practice, not the knowledge. The topics for this week is your mind creating the attachment. The Buddha natures have no attachment to anything. It's just because of your illusory mind, you start to attach to all the thoughts arising in your mind. So when you practice, because of your habit, you continue to attach to other thoughts. And that's the thought of ignorance. The more you practice, the more you detach yourself from all those thoughts. The Buddha natures is a freedom from everything. It's just like the sun stays in the space. There are nothing to hang it up. Even a small little string, if the sun has a small string hanging it up, that little string is the attachment already, because the sun cannot shine everywhere or radiate everywhere. That little string had already covered the sun a little bit. and that is the attachment. So our Buddha nature is the same. It doesn't attach to anything. And if we attach ourselves to any thoughts arising in our mind, even though it's just a tiny, tiny attachment, like a little string, that's still the attachment. That's still something that will bother your practice. So when you're practicing, you have to detach yourself from everything. You don't attach yourself to any thoughts arising in your mind. Okay, so if you have any questions or you want to share any experience, please raise your hand and the host will unmute you. Miss Kim In, could you please give us some words of encouragement for my Dharma friends and this new practitioner just started her practice recently and didn't know scared to ask questions. So she asked me to ask the questions. So she heard about our practice, came and listened to the Dharma Talk, and she started to practice. And when she asked questions, and she couldn't create the doubt at first. So can you give her some word of attachment, some words of encouragement, so she can continue to practice in this patriot dance? Yeah, this is because she's a new practitioner. So when you start the practice, you still have all these thinking, all the thoughts that you're running after. When you start the practice, you will go back. You start to go back to your Buddha nature, and at first it's you are not familiar with your practice yet. That's why you always running after the thoughts arising. And when you start the practice, sometimes you thought that you're not thinking at all, you're not dreaming at all. But when you have thoughts like that, you are thinking, you are dreaming already. A real practice, a true practice, when you ask the questions, you raise in doubt, you will see all the thoughts arising in your head. And you consider those just like some illusions created by your mind. Okay, so when you see there's a lot of thoughts arising in your head, it's the progress of your practice. Okay, before, you never recognize that. Okay, you're thinking and other thoughts arising, you don't recognize that are the illusions of your mind. But when you practice more and more, eventually you realize all those thoughts arising in your mind. Before practicing, you run after all the thoughts and you attach yourself to all those thoughts. But after you practice for a while, even though there's a lot of thoughts arising in your head, but you start to pay attention more to asking the questions and raising doubt. And you go only after your doubt. You don't pay attention to all those thoughts, which means you don't run after all those thoughts. You detach yourself all those thoughts. Okay, just like an example the Buddha gave us is you when you run after other thoughts, it's just like you accept your enemies as your father, as your relative. When you know how to practice, you will stay away from your enemies. Okay, so that because you have the habits of running after all those thoughts, the Buddha will use a lot of methods, a lot of means to help you to stay away from all those thoughts, okay, by doing the practicing. So the practice that you've done right now is just like a method for you to detach yourself from all those thoughts. So the core of the practice is asking the questions continuously, raising the doubt, and let the doubt strip up all those thoughts for you automatically. Okay, so when you use any practice, you follow just one practice at a time. You don't use too many methods to practice simultaneously. Because when you're using too many methods to practice, you cannot be successful in your practice. You focus on just one method, one practice at a time. If you're doing a meditations, you use meditations as a practice. If you're chanting the Buddha names, you use only that method to practice. When you practice Zen, Patron Zens, you choose only one questions and keep asking that questions for your whole life when you practice. You don't choose many questions and use many questions to raise the doubt at a time. Okay, just like you chose the questions, who is chanting the Buddha names? And you just keep asking who is chanting the Buddha names. You keep asking the questions and raising doubt from there. Don't change the questions when you see that somebody using some other questions, and try to change your questions, your huato. Okay, so when you believe in your Buddha natures enough, you will use only one method, one mean to practice, to start your practice. Okay, so usually when the new practitioner start a practice, you're still in a habit of running after your mind, running after other thoughts created by your mind. So don't do that. Just come back to your questions. Keep asking the questions continuously, raising doubt. Let the doubt sweep away all those thoughts for you. Okay? In all situations, in all circumstances, you keep asking the questions, raising doubt, until you reach the state of mind that you walking and not knowing that you walking. You sitting down and you not knowing that you're sitting down. You're doing everything, but your mind is not attaching to everything. And that is the ultimate state of practice that you should reach. When you reach that state, then you're about to reach the Buddha nature. So when you're in practicing, if you pay attention to the thoughts arising in your head, you will attach yourself to are those thoughts. And you will have all these suffering that your thoughts created. And that becomes the interference for your practicing. So in order to be success in the practice, you must detach yourself from all the thoughts arising from the mind. Okay, so if you still attaching to yourself, attaching to other thoughts, you won't be able to reach your Buddha nature. So how can you detach yourself from all these thinking? Start your practice, raising doubts, and if you have any questions, or if you have any doubts arising in your head, and you want to ask questions, you have to ask questions. Any problem during your practice, must ask your Dharma friends, the Zen Master. So the Zen Master or your Dharma friends can direct you back to the right path and solve the problem for you. Okay, so all these are just a talk. All these are just the words. And when you talk a talk, you have to walk the walk. All you have to do is to choose one questions in the 5 questions provided and keep asking that questions, raising doubts, and let the doubt doing the work for you. And this is the methods that shown by the patriarch. We're showing you the practice. We're not telling you to stop doing your work, your job, or all the activities that you're doing every day. You must practice in all situations. But at first, you have to practice little by little to get yourself familiar with the practice at your free times. And eventually, when you get used to this practice, asking questions, raising doubt, you can apply it to all situations, all work or job that you're doing every day. Is that understandable? Okay, so we're running out of time. I will see you back this afternoon.